Hey there guys, Dark Chieftain back with another ACW mod multiplayer battle for Napoleon Total War. This is the ACW Hardcore version 1.5 made by Coldfront. You'll notice I said 1.5 and not 1.2. That's because there was a recent massive update going from 1.25 to 1.2 to 1.5 rather. In this update, it adds the Antietam armies, which I will be playing as the Union First Corps from Antietam. It also adds the army size, increases it from 20 units to 30 units. So every player can bring up to 30 units now. It increases the money allocated so you can have more units, you can afford more units. It also has lots of bug fixes, balance changes, stuff like that to try and balance some of the overpowered stuff and try to boost some of the underpowered stuff. But overall, it's a massive, massive update. It's been a long time, a lot of hard work by the mod team. So I'll give them a lot of credit for this amazing mod that we play all the time. Today, this 4v4 is going to be between myself, Tiny Rick, Garden Variety Socialist, and SoulTalk on the Union side, and opposing us will be the Confederates, which is Palmetto Rifles, Alto, Avadude, and Head to Dead. I'll be playing as First Corps from Antietam. On my left is Antietam 9th Corps, played by Tiny Rick. To my right is 10th Corps, played by SoulTalk. And on the far right of our line, we have 2nd Corps from Antietam, played by Garden Variety Socialist. The map is going to be Gettysburg Round Tops, with us as the Union defending the Round Top. So here you have Little Round Top, and here you have Big Round Top. We've got Devil's Den here in the center, the wheat field over here. So 10th Corps, SoulTalk, and Garden Variety Socialist are going to be taking the center right and right. I will be taking the center left, and 9th Corps, commanded by Tiny Rick, will be on the very left. Him and I will be holding Big Round Top against any Confederate assaults. It's going to be a good battle today. Hopefully you guys enjoy, and I'm going to skip ahead to the action. Alright, so the opening shots have been fired. I've got my Napoleons up on top of Little Round Top with my 3-inchers coming up to the left and right. I'm going to set up on this nice elevation, which is a good spot to fire from, but you're also fairly exposed because you have to come out of the woods in order to crest the hill, and all these rocks make it hard to place your artillery properly. As you can see, this caisson, these horses are stuck on the gun because of the terrain just being weird, so that unit's not going to be as effective as it should be. Over here, you can see that I pushed into the woods by Devil's Den, and I'm facing a bunch of skirmishers. My skirmishers were routed. Let's see, the 12th Massachusetts skirmishers. They were able to rout the 8th Alabama, though. And I'm going to push up my infantry, which got here before the Confederate infantry, up into the woods to drive off those skirmishers. They're not going to stay long in an actual fight. Over on the right, 10th Corps is moving up behind me, as well as between myself and 2nd Corps. 2nd Corps is moving up to take this barn on the right side, as well as this woods here, next to the wheat field. And over on the left, my main force is moving through the woods, trying to stay hidden. And I'm going to line up over here to face against Pender's division, played by Alto. And then to my left, 9th Corps has his guns up on the hill, and he's moving his force around the left side of Big Round Top to face off against Johnson's division, played by Avadude. So it looks like my Napoleons are firing, but only one of them is firing. That's my fault. I really should have limbered them up and repositioned them. If I had seen, I guess 2 of them are firing. If I had seen that they were glitched so bad that they weren't all firing, I would have moved them further down the hill, maybe right here, and then unlimbered them again, just so they could actually be effective. But my 3-inchers are all firing, I think, despite having their own horses in the way. A little bit of a bug there. So you can see how good of a position this is. They can shoot down into the Confederate infantry. Once the Pender's infantry crest this hill, they're going to be able to fire right down into them as well. Over here you can see I'm starting to rout these skirmishers. They caused a few casualties, but nothing major. They're more of a nuisance and a delay in action than anything else. And I'm going to push into the woods. My goal with this was to secure a position in the woods so that the Confederates weren't defending this fence line. Having to attack uphill in an open field against a fence line with woods would be suicide for us. So I knew we would need to get at least into this woods to contest it, so that we don't have a major disadvantage here. Plus, Devil's Den, which is right here, is a 3-point. That's the highest point on the map. Between that and Wheatfield, that pretty much wins or loses you the game. So you can see here we have 3 1-points for Big Round Top, Little Round Top, and then over here on the right. And then you have a 1-point for this house over here. So that's a total of 4 points that we have. Confederates just have to take this line here, and they win the game. From LOC, at least. So over here you can see Pender's actually splitting his force in half. He's sending half of his army up into the Devil's Den to fight for that, and the other half is coming up into the woods. I actually wasn't paying attention, and my unit here walked into a unit of Confederate skirmishers and routed them in melee. I think I didn't lose anything, so I just killed a few Confederates there. Because of the terrain, so these rocks that are everywhere really screw up the pathfinding. So because of that, I'm very disorganized over here and kind of coming in piecemeal because everything's all over the place, and you got men marching in columns and stuff. Here I have my elite force with the Iron Brigade, as well as the 13th Pennsylvania Reserve, which has repeaters. They have, I think they're Sharps repeaters or something like that. I may be wrong on that, but they have a repeating rifle. And then I have these sharpshooters, and they for sure have Sharps rifles. Very accurate. Unit 84, usually at this unit size, most sharpshooters have anywhere from 7 to maybe 20 or 30 men. This is a very large sharpshooter unit. It's going to be very, very helpful in this battle. Over here you can see Pender has crested the hill, and I'm going to start targeting him with my artillery here in a minute. You can see that artillery has a beautiful direct line of fire right into these units. It's going to cause some serious damage to these guys. I am in a bit of a precarious position currently because I'm facing off against the entirety of Anderson's and half of Pender's. So Soul is going to move up here to replace me as quickly as he can so I don't get overwhelmed and pushed out of the woods. Over here you can see my artillery is hitting. Getting some nice kills there. He's going to march up and hit my line. I had to pull back a little bit. You can see his unit moving. And there goes one of my 3-inchers, down to 13 men, likely not going to come back, unfortunately. See, the 22nd North Carolina has been hit by artillery and maybe one volley of infantry fire, and they're already down to 145. Alto playing as Pender, he's going to be very aggressive and try to get nice and close. He's going to attempt a melee charge. You can see he's getting his men into kind of blocky column type formations. That's a melee column, basically to minimize the number of casualties the front of your unit takes. So I'm actually going to, I realize it's too late to adjust, so I'm going to countercharge with my 2 units here, 94th New York and 13th Massachusetts. That way I can reform my line further back. I get a nice volley off of the 12th Massachusetts, as well as more artillery hits, and I'm actually going to rout this unit of 22nd North Carolina. You can see all these dead here. That artillery hit really did some work. But he is going to beat me in the woods. These Confederate units, let's see, North Carolinians have better melee than my guys. And my general's not over here. My general is over on the left side, supporting my main force. Looks like I do rout one of his units. I missed that in the heat of the battle. But he's going to charge with a 2nd unit in and probably rout this unit of 94th New York. And now 10th Corps is coming up to replace me. Artillery is still raining down. And there goes one of my units. This unit's could be not far behind. Over here you can see that Heath's division, played by Hedadad, is kind of stopped short of this woods. He knows it's not a good idea to attack across open field into a woods. And then 2nd Corps also has this house here with 2 regiments of sharpshooters, which is going to cause a lot of damage over time if you're trying to fight, into this woods. So I think he's going to wait until his allies are up and maybe until they win in the center before he does his main push. If you see some smoke coming out of the warehouse, they're actually picking off 1st Tennessee, and they've taken 4 casualties already from those sharpshooters at that range. Over on the left, you can see that Penders has made contact in the woods. Has begun attacking me. I flanked him briefly, but he's actually going to flank my flank. So I'm going to pull back and reform. These are his Georgia units, which are his best melee units. These are 2 of his 4 best melee units over here. So there's another Georgia over on the right. He's moving into the open field. And then got 1 in reserve. So these 2, and then this one and this one. Those 4 units are the best melee units in Pender's division. And there you can see somewhere I lost a unit. It must be over here. Oh yeah, over on my right. 83rd New York has fallen back. I'm going to replace them briefly. But once 10th Corps infantry gets up, I'm going to fall back entirely from this flank. See, Pender's getting hit real hard by artillery, and he's facing off against some large 10th Corps units, so he's actually going to pull his front line back. So he stops taking all his casualties from the artillery. Over here, I see 35th Georgia come out into the open to flank me, so I'm actually going to move 2 of my Iron Brigades, 6th Wisconsin and 2nd Wisconsin, over to the flank to hit this unit of 35th Georgia. Over on the left, looks like there's an artillery duel and some range skirmishing. There's a 9th Corps has a unit of Napoleons over here. It's a really good spot because he can kind of shoot almost enfilade fire down the Johnson's main line, but Johnson's going to send some infantry to try and remove these guns from the field. Looks like 9th Corps is rushing over some dismounted cavalry to try and stop it. These 33rd Virginia kind of unsupported at the moment. Now they're kind of by themselves, taking some casualties. But he's going to try to get them up to take out these guns before this unit routes. You are going to notice a little bit of a performance decrease with this battle just because there's 120 units approximately per side. Normally there'd be about 80, I believe. So this unit's going to charge, but unfortunately for Johnson's division, they're going to break and redline immediately. So that unit is now gone from the field because they're so close to the edge of the map. Moving back to the center, this is where the heaviest fighting is taking place. You can see my 2 Iron Brigade units, very high accuracy and great reload rate. They're going to be opening fire in 35th Georgia. Just taking some casualties, so they're returning fire. And one of my units did rout over here. One of my smaller units I was in the front. You can see the line of dead Union. I'm guessing this section right here is not considered forest, so I don't have a cover bonus, unfortunately. So I took a lot of casualties there, but I reformed my line. 9th Corps is helping me on the left. And I'm going to hopefully start to stabilize. I'm moving my 6th Wisconsin back. They're getting shot in the flank from the hill. So I'm actually going to kind of shift them at a different angle behind this rock, this giant rock formation, to avoid the fire from the 16th North Carolina. Ignore that, that means nothing. Just a glitch with Napoleon. Over here, 2nd Corps and 10th Corps did a combined push into the wheat field. They're trying to take this 2-point right here. That's going to give us a solid LOC foothold to hopefully win the battle. Here, 2nd Corps is moving up close, so let's see him go for a potential melee charge against Heath's division, which has some massive units. This is on medium unit size, so that means everything is 1/2 scale to the actual battle. So in real life, this unit at the Battle of Gettysburg, 11th North Carolina, would have had 618 men mustered at the beginning of the battle. Here you can see 2nd Corps is opening fire from the field, but he knows that he's not going to be able to sustain that, especially not at this close of a range. He's going to need to get in the woods and contest it. Otherwise, he's going to be taking heavy casualties out in the woods. Over here, looks like a unit routed purely from artillery. I'm guessing that's 9th Corps', or rather 10th Corps' siege mortars, that's what they're called. They're big siege mortars. Very, very effective artillery unit. Same with 32-pound Parrott siege gun batteries. Those are all do a ton of damage. I think SoulTalk is using them very well to pound this position of Anderson's. You can see these units are starting to waver. At this point, 10th Corps full force is in the front line. I can actually shift over my 10 regiments over to the left. I've already got 4 here and 6 more coming. And I'm going to use those units to help push across this little valley here. There I lost another artillery piece. That's my Napoleon, so I'm down to just 1 artillery, which is already weakened, unfortunately. Confederate. So with new rules, you can have up to 18 guns. I only brought 12. I was trying to get more infantry and less artillery. So my guns are going to lose. 9th Corps pushing back. Looks like Johnson's moved up and started attacking him. It also looks like that cavalry must have went to melee or some sort of advance and was pushed back. But luckily for Tiny Rick, his artillery is still here doing some work with canister. You can see that hit that they just got on this 14th Louisiana, who seems to be glitching out a little bit. They're leaving some guys behind. Yeah, there they go. So let's see if this unit gets any more shots off. Ooh, that was a nice shot, but it hit the rock and the ground in front of the unit. Looks like Tynerick is actually going to countercharge with his 8th Connecticut, try to break this 14th Louisiana. Keep his guns in the fight. They're going to be very important for this battle over here. Over here, we both pulled back a little bit, staying at range, away from the Confederates, prevent them from melee charging. Looks like I'm advancing. Now that my reserves are here, I'm going to try to push Pender's line where he's weakest. He only has so many men here, and most of his reserves are over in the center. And while I push forward, I'm actually going to send the 6th Wisconsin to get rid of the 16th North Carolina, hopefully. Look at the map, you can see this beautiful battle line going from edge of the map to edge of the map. Glorious, massive battle. There, 35th Georgia's lost 60 men already. 2nd Wisconsin's got no casualties. 6th Wisconsin's only lost 5. So they're going to hopefully get into formation and get some shots off at the 16th North Carolina. Looks like Alto's going to start something out. There's the volley. Don't know how many that killed, but only part of this unit's firing, only about a third in the center. What's nice though is if he were to try and charge down the hill into melee, the flanks would then fire while he's charging down once they're into, once they have a line of fire. Again, like I said, the pathfinding of these rocks is a little bit weird, even though visually there's a bunch of room here. Technically only about half of this area right in the middle is actually traversable. There, looks like my general just nearly got hit by artillery in the back. I'm going to actually have to move him around to keep him from dying. Over here in the wheat field, you can see 2nd Corps assault kind of got pushed back, and he's going to fall back to max range to minimize his losses in the woods here. You can see this 12-pound Napoleon battery already has 3 or 4 chevrons, 4 chevrons. So that's doing some work. You can see those explosions high in the air. Those are from 10th Corps mortars. He shifted his fire to this side since 2nd Corps is kind of starting to lose. Keith's division is pushing up most of his force, keeping a skeletal force here in the woods, and shifting his artillery over to the center. Over here, there's the 16th North Carolina was taking some heavy casualties, so he actually pulls them back, and he's going to replace them with the 12th South Carolina, which is one of the 3 or 5 elite ranged regiments in Pender's division. They at least match Iron Brigade in terms of accuracy and reload rate. But here looks like the 35th Georgia got pulled out, taking some pretty heavy casualties. So I'm going to shift up my reserves and plan to replace my front line, continue pushing, applying pressure on him here so that he can't devote more men to this middle. 10th Corps is kind of fighting against Anderson's division and like a third of Pender's division, so I'm trying to distract from this flank as much as I can. Here you can see Pender is bringing over his artillery to bombard this fortified hill position I have. And right here, I had the 2nd Pennsylvania Reserves up in the front for a while. That's a Buchenwald unit, the only one I brought. So I got them up close, trying to do some damage to these center units, and then I brought up my reserves with full reloads to replace the 2nd before they took too many casualties. But I am not really trying that hard on this flank. I'm actually moving my sharpshooters over to the left. I had them over here for a while, but they weren't really doing much because of the rocks. So I'm going to move them over to the left to see if I can do some work over on that side. Over here, Pender actually starts pulling a bunch of his units back. I think he's given up on this assault, at least for now. He's probably waiting for his artillery to start causing some damage. I weaken my position since I'm so strong in this woods. He's not going to be able to push. I pretty much had 3 lines of infantry versus his 1 spread out. So I'm going to send my little 9-man skirmisher unit up here just to annoy him. Pull the 12th South Carolina back because they were starting to take some casualties as well. Although my 6th Wisconsin took some decent casualties too. I actually replaced them with the 95th New York. So over here, the center has kind of gone into a bit of a stalemate as I'm pushing and he's falling back. 10th Corps doesn't have enough of an advantage to push right now, and it's actually to his advantage to stay at range because his artillery is going to do massive damage in this woods. 2nd Corps has stabilized his line. He's actually shifting reserves over to the left to assist 10th Corps in some sort of assault. Since Heath's division isn't really pressing our right very much. Over here, 9th Corps lost his guns, and he's actually going to shift his army away from the edge of the map. And bring him closer to this stone wall that Johnson's division has occupied. Here I'm shifting some reserves over to the left flank. Just getting ready for another potential push, and I'm reforming my men on this flank because they're too close together. They're getting hit by a lot of artillery. I want to make this flank as small of a target as I can for their artillery. And there we see Pender's general actually routes there. I wonder if he got hit by some random artillery. He's got 4 men. He should come back. Yeah, there he is. He'll come back. So 10th Corps here in the Devil's Den is going to start getting ready to make a push. So here in a minute, I should start putting my reserves up through here to attempt to assist him. You can see I see the 12th South Carolina moving, so I'm going to start moving my men as well. Somewhat along here. Let's form to get some flanking fire on the 100th New York. There we go. So I'll move the 105th New York, the 95th New York, and someone else. There definitely see 3 regiments here, but I only see 2 moving. Oh, I see. I'm just moving 2 right now. And then he brings reserves up, so I'm actually going to reform, and 10th Corps starts falling back. Even though he's only taken 1 casualty rate so far. Right now he's taking more, but initially he's only taken 1. So I expect Penders to potentially make an assault at me. So I'm going to reform and get ready to hit him with a fresh volley if that's what he decides to do. Over on the left, we're just trading fire in the woods. He is kind of winning over here. You can see his men are taking fairly light casualties, and my men are taking moderate casualties. So I'm going to start. I'm going to send the 2nd Pennsylvania forward to see if I can weaken Johnson's flank here. I'm also going to send 4 of my reserves over to start replacing these weakened units. But the main fight for me is going to be on this flank at the moment. 2nd Corps and 10th Corps are making a big push through the wheat field and all along here. Looks like 10th Corps might be going for some charges or just some close volleys. He's got some colored troops up here. It's taking forever to fire. Oh, they must have fire at will turned off, so they're not actually shooting. That sucks. A little bit of a mistake there. You can see over here, 103rd New York has fallen back, so he's going to replace them. I'm getting some shots, some flanking shots on the 12th South Carolina. We're about to be hit by a big volley by the 112th New York if it ever fires. Okay, so he's going to move forward. There we go. Now they're getting ready to fire. See that massive volley just nearly wiped out 12th South Carolina, and then I'm going to get another flanking shot, and he's going to rout. So now he's having to shift, Penders is having to shift regiments from his far right over to his center to assist with that. He's also going to melee charge the 112th New York with 2 of his regiments, so I'm going to send up 2 of my regiments to assist. He's actually going to start charging down the hill, so I'm going to reform and try and get a volley off at him, and then I'll send my 105th New York to melee. He turns around from this downward assault, and so I'm going to move my unit back up the hill. And we are actually going to, with his unit combined with mine, rout all 3 of those regiments for Penders, which is a major win for us. Prior to the 1.5 update, melee was almost always Confederate advantage. It was nerfed a bit, and you can see the result of that is that the Union is actually able to win some melees. So we're going to break Pender's center here in its entirety. I'm going to start pouring in some reserves. I got the 95th New York and the 90th Pennsylvania. And I'm actually going to pull this unit back and reform. Pender is shifting more reserves, continuing to weaken this side. And I'm actually, at this point, he's pushed back out of the woods, so I'm on the steep slope of Little Round Top, and I have a triple line firing. I probably could have these two units firing as well, but I've got 2 lines of infantry and then a line in the back of my sharpshooters. Getting some nice volleys off at him. Picking away at his troops. My goal is to weaken him as much as I can and then make a full force assault to try and punch through his center. At the same time, Johnson's and the 9th Corps are trading blows, back and forth, melees and stuff, up close, point-blank volleys. Both armies are taking casualties. I think Johnson's has taken a few more casualties so far. So 9th Corps has a bit of an advantage in numbers. Here's a melee going on for the stone wall. A little bit glitchy. 9th Corps is going to lose his 2nd Maryland. So despite some units routing, 9th Corps is winning on this flank overall. Obviously we're winning over in the center, which is giving us more of an advantage on the left. Unfortunately, the 2nd Union assault in the wheat field is also pushed back. Heath is starting to push the woods here. So 2nd Corps is having to fall back and consolidate his force. Looks like the 7th Tennessee was pushed back in melee by the 7th New York. You had 2 regiments here. 1st Tennessee and 14th Tennessee just routed the 53rd Pennsylvania. So 2nd Corps is going to have to fall back quickly to re-solidify his line and hopefully prevent Heath's division from flanking him entirely. Over in the center, 10th Corps went for a big melee charge in the woods. I assisted him with my 105th New York, and we were able to break a couple more Pender's division regiments, which caused Anderson to fall back. Now we're going to reform out of firing range of Confederates, kind of down the hill a little bit. My 95th New York is hitting this 1st South Carolina pretty hard. Over here, 9th Corps is still going for some up-close charges. I believe he routed the 2nd Maryland and brought it all the way down to 34 troops. That was a 3 chevron unit for the Confederacy, so that's a tough loss for Johnson's division, and that unit is not going to come back. 9th Corps is also able to push Johnson off of this wall, and now he's occupied it. Although Johnson is pushing the flank a bit, which 9th Corps is having to pull back just by being outnumbered by 2 to 1 here. Over on the hill, at this point, there we go. So I start pushing up, trying to press our advantage and push them out of the woods entirely, which is going to give us an advantage over here. I'm still kind of just waiting, staying in my nice triple line. You can see how many casualties have been dealt out here. And obviously we're winning over here. What's nice is my 95th New York, half of the unit is protected by this giant rock formation. So only half of it's firing, but only half of it can get hit. And they are winning this range battle. They've killed 14 since I last looked, and lost maybe a dozen at most. So Pender's going to fall back. But 10th Corps is having to shift his reserves from this assault back to his right flank to close this gap, since 2nd Corps is having to withdraw from the wheat field entirely. Luckily, 2nd Corps was able to push back Heath's assault on this right flank, so that should relieve some pressure from him, and these 10th Corps artillery batteries are doing work against Heath's and Anderson's, trying to assist 2nd Corps over there. Over here you can see that Johnson's is actually falling back from this flanking assault, probably trying to consolidate his forces. 9th Corps is continuing to push down the hill, and you can see Johnson's units overall are getting very weak. A lot of these guys. His left flank not as much, although it's Pender right here fighting against me. You can see this position firing up the hill into the woods. It's interesting that no fighting in this battle here took place on Little Round Top, where the heaviest fighting took place. or some of the heaviest fighting, because there was a lot of heavy fighting through like the Devil's Den and this area as well. But here we got that 35th Georgia from earlier moving back up to replace the 20th North Carolina. And now 10th Corps is having to shift more and more reserves to the right. I actually am going to be holding this location with just my 3 regiments here. I'm not planning on truly holding it. I figure that if he makes a concentrated assault with his 8 units here, I'll just have to delay and fall back. Hopefully win on the left or bring reserves up the hill before these units are overwhelmed by numbers. Continuing to push up, but I'm still staying on the hill just to use my triple stack or my triple line advantage. Over here, Johnson's recommitted the flanking assaults after 9th Corps pulled his units back, so he's actually going to reform his whole line at this point to counter that. I'm going to continue pressing on this flank, try to get a breakthrough. Now you can see Penders is getting more and more weakened in this area. Pretty soon I'll be able to just walk right through him by sheer weight of numbers. 10th Corps unfortunately was pushed out of the woods. Now he's reformed on this fence line. He kind of had to do that because he needs his line to be connected to 2nd Corps. So the Confederates are gaining ground in the wheat field and in this woods here. We got to try and make a move to retake it if we can. See the results of that melee earlier. Lots of Union and a decent number of Confederate dead and wounded here. The battle's kind of reached somewhat of a stalemate at the moment. No one's really pushing or falling back hard. The line is kind of stabilized across the board. Looks like Pender is moving his 5 regiments here up to push my 3 regiments. I believe I start moving some reserves, some weaker units, 12th Massachusetts and 35th New York. And I'm also going to move my general over since I plan on potentially getting into melees. I expect Pender to come up and melee charge me. So I'm getting my general over to get ready for that. It was around this point, or maybe shortly after, that Soul decides he's going to make a massive melee charge against Anderson's flank here. He starts shifting his reserves up, pulling his front unit back. I'm holding my fire at the moment. I can see that these units have no line of sight. There's no point in firing because they'll just shoot the backside of the hill. I'm leaving my flank a bit exposed. I want this unit to come over here and expose it to these units. He's going to stop short, fire at me from range. I'm still holding fire, waiting until he comes over the hill and gets somewhere where I can actually do damage. And I'm walking these units up to hit the 1st South Carolina Rifles. So I charge the 35th New York in. It's going to be pretty close melee, but I should win because his unit's at 1/3 strength and mine's at about 3/4 strength, 2/3 strength actually. He's going to charge his 37th North Carolina. Luckily I have the 12th Massachusetts, which is a relatively good melee unit for the Union. I'm going to countercharge, and I'm going to send forward my 95th New York to hit their 37th North Carolina to flank. If I can rout this unit and only lose one of my units, that'll be a win for me, because he's going to have to pull back and reform and thin his line out. And there you can see the 95th New York hits this already routing 37th North Carolina. It's going to be a lot of kills and experience for the 95th New York. Now I'm going to reform, and some artillery from, I think, 10th Corps comes in and routes 2 of Pender's divisions. Now his center is completely gone at this point. Within a matter of just a couple minutes, he lost all 5 of those regiments. Well, 4 of the 5, and he's about to lose the next one. So it's at this point that Soul's like, I'm just going to do a big melee charge. He's going to charge the flank here. Oh my guard, I'll support you. I bring my general up. I've now got 5 units here, all relatively strong, so I'm going to send my 2 weakest to attempt to destroy these guns, which have been pounding us all game, and send the other 3 over here to assist 10th Corps in his melee assault. See Andersons and Penders fall back a little bit and reform, but we have the hill advantage, which is going to increase our charge bonus. See this glorious charge. Here I got my boys coming in, 105th New York, coming against the 8th Alabama, and luckily we get the charge off before they get any volleys off, so we don't take any unnecessary casualties. See, you can see I'm also flanking them with the 90th Pennsylvania. Gonna send them in, and that's going to route the 8th Alabama. I'll be able to shift these 2 regiments to the right and help the 112th New York, who don't really need it. Here I now have 3 regiments lined up. I was able to get 1 kill on the howitzers, but he's got a pretty big force coming, so I'm going to have to pull back my units into cover. I don't want to take unnecessary casualties staying in this field when I have the woods available to me. Over here, the 112th New York starts advancing up here, so I'm going to have to replace them. We're going to charge in, and the 14th Alabama is going to break as well. Got a lot of chevrons, but I'm going to hit them in the flank. I see that this Union regiment here is 52nd Pennsylvania. It's on the verge of breaking, so I'm going to hit 14th Alabama in the flank as quickly as possible. And this unit should rout. They're gone, so now the entirety of Pender's left and Anderson's right flank has collapsed. We have a big hole into the center of their line. Over here, Pender is going to push against this stone wall, try to retake his center. I'm just going to counter melee charge him one at a time. So here the 95th New York is going to charge into the 35th Georgia. Now these Georgians are his best melee units, but this one's pretty weak. Less than half strength, so they're not going to stand. Here the 12th Massachusetts is going to charge the 28th North Carolina and actually break them. And then finally the 35th New York is going to charge 7th North Carolina and break them. My units nearly break, but they get so many chevrons that they're going to stay for now. And now I'm free to advance on his artillery. While that was happening, 9th Corps broke through Johnston's and split him off of Pender's line. So we're going to be able to push up hard over here. I'm moving to destroy this artillery. 10th Corps is pressing Anderson's flank. While this is happening, Heath is actually making progress against 2nd Corps, but 2nd Corps is holding strong enough that we have time to win over here. And at this point, I started feeling pretty good, like we were starting to win. My general gets hit by artillery again. He's down to 3 men now. I rout the artillery. 95th New York is down to 63 men, and they're going to rout. Now I have the 43-man 135th New York and 12th Massachusetts with 49 men. They're going to charge into the 14th South Carolina, one of the elite Pender's Division regiments. And I don't expect to win this melee, so I actually bring 2 more of my stronger regiments up, as well as my general. But I think due to chevrons, these 2 units of mine are actually going to break this 14th South Carolina. And they are gone. He's going to charge another one. That's the 33rd North Carolina. I'm going to attempt to get my now elite regiment out of harm's way, but some of their guys are still killing, routing Confederates. So he's actually going to catch the unit from behind. I get some partial volleys there, but I'm going to have to turn around and charge my 12th Massachusetts in. And there's a direct artillery hit on my men and a near hit on my general, so I actually pull my general back out of the fight. And I'm going to lose the 12th Massachusetts. There they go. But I was able to rout the 33rd North Carolina. I'm going to turn back to the center. 10th Corps' left flank is kind of falling apart against Anderson, so I'm going to move forward to help him. Penders and what's left of Johnson here is going to pull back all the way into the woods. This artillery is going to pull back as well. They've been pretty much completely defeated on this flank. 9th Corps is mopping up what's left of Johnson's. Johnson's does have a great defensive position, like the best you could ask for. He's on top of a hill, behind a stone wall, in a woods. It's like the most cover bonus you could possibly ask for. But he is really outnumbered, so he's likely not going to stand for long. Especially without a general, which I don't think he has. And there you can see my general just got hit right in the face with a artillery round, but it is unfortunate. My general, General John Gibbon, there he is, blown up along with the rest of his staff in one shot. But regardless, I still have plenty of men left, so I'm going to start shifting them, everything I have, to the center. I'm chasing Pender over here and going to move up to assist 10th Corps against Anderson's. 2nd Corps is still holding strong against Heath, but he is slowly losing just by sheer weight of numbers. I think some of Anderson's is assisting as well, and realizing the danger he's in over here, Anderson is going to, or I should say, Palmetto Rifles playing as Anderson's division. He's going to pull these units back over to their right, or to hit their center, really, to attempt a better defense. See, 10th Corps is pushing up now that my reserves are reaching the woods. At this point, the battle's pretty much in the bag. We have 12 minutes left, and we have all the LOC points except for the wheat field and the center forest, which is a total of 3 points. We have way more points and way more men at the moment. They do have an artillery advantage just in terms of numbers. You can see the only artillery we have left are 10th Corps and some of 2nd Corps over on this flank, but everything else here is all gone, and the Confederates have a bunch of artillery stacked up in these woods. So that's their best chance at winning at the moment. Penders is falling back to protect the artillery and meet up with the flank of Anderson's. You can see the piles of dead guys, dead and wounded throughout the Devil's Den area and the area surrounding it. Lots of Confederates here where I won those melees. Lots of Confederates in the woods and Union boys all along this fence line, inside the woods, outside the woods. Along here, got the lines of dead and wounded throughout the creek bed here, up on the hill where my men were. Down the fence line. Confederate losses. Johnson's did a very good job of defeating Johnson's, 9th Corps, played by Tiny Rick, did a great job of defeating Johnson's. You can see absolute piles of dead and wounded by these fence lines. Johnson really held on to those hard, did not want to give them up. Here you can see there's only one regiment left, the 42nd Virginia, with 126 men. Everything else in that flank is gone. And now the fight in the woods continues. 10th Corps charged into some units, so I'm going to assist him with some of mine. Got the 1st Pennsylvania Reserves moving up. Up here, 10th Corps, 112th New York is going to route and go right through this Confederate unit. That's fun. So at that point, I'm going to stop and fire some volleys instead of charging right away. Looks like that volley went off to the right, probably against the 2nd Georgia Battalion. And his men are going to, because they're very tired, they're going to slow motion charge my unit. Just fresh. A couple point blank shots, that's always good. A little bit of friendly fire mixed in with a good hit on my men. Both units, you can see, took a morale loss to that due to that artillery. I think a unit over here, mine routed, 104th New York. And my unit here is going to rout as well because of that artillery. Luckily I have plenty of reserves, got a 13th Pennsylvania with their repeaters, but his unit routs before I can even get another volley off. 9th Corps being very aggressive, pushing up against Pender's line as well as his artillery. I got my sharpshooters moving to the left to pick off the artillery crew. Over here, 10th Corps continuing to push hard. Because it's late in the game, we're winning by a decent amount, and I have so many men, I'm going to stop microing my guys really and just kind of move them up in lines of multiple units. Just because it's hard to micro as many guys as I have in such a small area. I still have probably 25 regiments on the field. 20 to 25, so it's a lot to organize. Here's some cavalry is going to hold against Iron Brigades moving up to face them. And there goes, I think that's Anderson. Volley. Took that unit from over 60 men to less than 50. Probably close to 20 kills in that one volley. You're going to have some misfires, so some men are going to have a secondary volley as well. There it is. Take out a few more. I'm actually going to move my unit forward to either get a close range volley or just melee charge that unit. And I think they're going to break before I can get there. There they go. Over on the left, 9th Corps is able to mop up Penders, and he's moving out to mop up the artillery. Over here, I'm shifting reserves over to continue working on Anderson's. I'm going to bring these 5 units up. Just send them in block. In, cube formation to... My plan was to melee charge, but his units kept breaking before I could even charge. As you'll see with this 8th Florida. See, there's a lot of dead and wounded Confederates in the woods here. Some more artillery from 10th Corps coming in. The artillery was very good. I wish I could have seen the kills for those units. So at this point, the Confederate center, rear center is gone. I'm going to move my sharpshooters over here. 2nd Corps is not doing well. Heath is doing a very good job, or head-to-head playing as Heath is doing a very good job of pressing 2nd Corps, pushing him out of the woods. So I'm going to shift up my sharpshooters to start taking some shots at him. I'm also going to bring some Iron Brigade around behind Anderson's to encircle him and hopefully rout him sooner so we can, myself and 10th Corps can shift reserves over to this flank. So 10th Corps does have some reserves, and Heath is having to fall back. He's doing his best despite the battle being pretty much over in the favor of us as the Union. He's headed is doing his best to continue winning, essentially. Doing what he can. Fighting for pride, I like to say. You can see this artillery is coming down and just absolutely harassing these Anderson's infantry. I formed my men up to fire, and they don't even get a shot off. These units rout, and they're actually going to rout right into the 6th Wisconsin. At the same time, my skirmishers, my sharpshooters that are behind them, are going to start walking through some routing units as well. So you're going to see, you'll see when I pull up the end battle screen, my individual unit stats. The 6th Wisconsin and the 2nd United States sharpshooters have by far the most kills because their stats got inflated by these routing units coming right through them. And I didn't do this on purpose, it just kind of happened this way. Like I said before, I wasn't microing at this point, so I was kind of, focusing on other units, moving these guys up to assault the artillery. Looks like I lost someone. Oh. Where is this unit? So the 21st New York came back briefly and then routed again because they have no general and they're at 50% strength. Forgot about the 88th Pennsylvania back here. I'm moving them up. See the wheat field is covered in bodies as well. Mostly Union, but a decent number of Confederates as well. 10th Corps is pushing, and he actually charges Heath's division here. These Marines who didn't fight for most of the battle are actually going to lose and get kind of slaughtered here. That kind of sucks. Yeah, that unit is gone. Oof. But with only 2 minutes left, we're trying to get over there and help. 2nd Corps is falling apart. He's down to 1 regiment. So we're trying to get over there quickly to defeat Heath before the time runs out, if possible. See, Heath is down to about 4 regiments. 2nd Corps, one of his came back, so thanks to 10th Corps' general. So 2nd Corps has 2 weakened regiments fighting against these 4 Heath's regiments. He installs the flag and the colonel. It's Colonel Isaac J. Wistar. See, I got my sharpshooters moving out to the flank. I'm trying to get some shots at the 42nd Mississippi, but the Confederate units keep routing into my skirmishers and they won't fire, my sharpshooters, and they won't fire. And then we're down to 2 seconds, and the battle is about to be over. Just before time runs out, 72nd Pennsylvania falls back, which Garden Variety Socialist was trying to keep that unit in the fight till the end, but just a little bit short. So here you can see the end results. You can see how many men. This is on medium unit size. Remember that. 10th Corps had over 4,000. The rest of us had over 3,000, including the Confederates. The smallest army was 3,033, and usually on medium unit size, in the past, it'd be around 2,000 to 2,500 would be the size range. If I go to kills, 2nd United States and 6th Wisconsin both had over 300 kills. I'd say probably about half those were from massacring, routing Confederates. 95th New York and 12th Massachusetts, those are the 2 small units that ended up being very small. They both did a bunch of melee charges, won all of them, and obviously got a lot of kills from that. But you can see overall, did pretty well. My artillery, this 10-pound Parrott, 67 guns, did pretty well. Napoleon's did okay, but not as good as it should have done with the position it had. And then this other unit of 10-pound Parrots was utterly useless. I may as well have not brought them at all. You see my general lost all 6 guys, no kills. But good game to my opponents and my allies. It was a lot of fun. If you guys are interested, definitely check out the new version 1.5. I'll link the Discord below. where you can get all the information you need to help installing it. If you have tech support questions, we have that too. And I look forward to seeing you guys in the next one. Thank you for watching.